I'm doing this video because I was supposed to make a real video, and then I didn't because I work in a COVID testing lab, and things are understandably kind of really busy right now, and I'm still adjusting to that. So you're getting whatever the hell this is instead.
We're gonna chill. We're gonna have a nice conversation about one of our favorite games right now, which is Hades. A fun little roguelike that has taken the internet by storm.
A game called Hades.
A game called Bophades. But yeah, this is a roguelike developed by Supermassive Games, makers of Bastion, Pyre, Transistor, one of my all-time favorite games. Very, very good, and a fun little roguelike that features Greek mythology very predominantly.
The thing about Greek mythology, you may or may not know this about me, you may or may not have caught on, I'm kind of a mythology buff, or a mythology nerd, just because buff makes it sound like I actually know what I'm talking about.
A mythology gruff.
Yeah, I put myself as a mythology gruff, you know. I know what I'm talking about, but I can be a little rough around the edges. I know there are limits to my knowledge. Anyway, so what we're gonna be doing is, or I say what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be rating the Hades characters based on their adherence to the original mythology. And now one thing I gotta say right away here is my ratings of these characters are in no way about do I like the designs, do I like their characterization in the game. It is strictly about how well they face up against their mythological counterparts. Mm-hmm. We're looking for them to jive with that, to not stray far. So if I rate a character low, it's not because I dislike them. It's not because I think they're badly done. It's not because I think they're badly designed. Because if that's what this were about, all of these characters would be 10 out of 10s.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, these are like incredibly well designed and very well written characters too. But you know, what we want to look at here is kind of how they compare to Greek manga. We want to see if they are within canon, acting as they should.
Today we're going to tell you about the differences between the Hades anime and manga.
It's very important that we look at the original source material to see if it's quite proper and, you know, not taking any liberties.
And sometimes, you know, those liberties might be good. We're not saying that it is necessarily a bad thing if they are always going against the grain, because sometimes some of these Greek myths can get a little bit dicey, a little interesting.
Yeah. Some of the changes they make in this game are absolutely great. I think most of the changes they make are great. Anyway, that's a very long-winded way of saying we're going to be extremely nitpicky and pedantic and annoying today, and we hope you enjoy it. So let's start at the top. Sadly, Zagreus is not, like, a very well fleshed out mythological figure, so we're gonna be skipping him just because the child of Hades and Persephone has, like, 20 different names and is only briefly mentioned, and Zagreus, the name is actually attributed to a few different scantily written about figures. I've got next to nothing to go off for Zagreus, so he's not gonna get rated.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
So starting at the other top, we have Hades himself, the man.
The myth, the legend.
The legend? Overall, the Hades in Hades is very good. To me personally, the vibe is slightly off. When I see this bearish, big, hunky, overbearing, he's got this very, like, powerful, intimidating demeanor, which it's not bad for Hades to be intimidating, but there's just something so loud about Hades in this game that's very strange, because our mythological Hades is kind of a morose and withdrawn character. In a way, this Hades is also withdrawn, but I just think the vibe is slightly off. And that might just be me and my thing. You'll notice that Hades in this game has like a bunch of gems and precious stones on his design. That's because Hades is not just a god of the dead, he's the god of the underworld, and that's literally everything underneath the earth, including the riches of jewels and gold.
Oh, okay. So that's why the gemstones are so prominent. It is very specifically everything underground.
Yeah, that's why Daddy-O is bedazzled.
Okay, that makes sense. I like that.
My one last thing here is that during the fight with Hades at the end of each of your runs, he does get this helmet and bident, which are these classic signs. Hades' go-to battle weapon was actually called the Helm of Darkness, and it allowed him to become invisible.
Oh, okay.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, and the bident was one of his symbols. So yeah, some very good work there. The Hades in this game, fittingly, is well fleshed out, well done. It gets a 9 out of 10.
Hell yeah.
All right, you know where you love her, folks. We're talking about Nyx next. MILF alert.
Sound the MILF alarms.
Sound the MILF alarms. They've escaped.
It is MILF Monday.
It is MILF Monday. All right, so this one's a little weird because Hades and like Artemis and Athena, these are all like Olympian gods, fully fleshed out gods, whereas characters like Nyx and Chaos, who we'll get to later, are the personifications of things. They're these more primordial entities. So they're in a bit of a category of their own. The mythology surrounding them and the personifications of them, if there are any, tend to be vaguer. Sometimes they're talked about as people, sometimes they're talked about as like, I mean, Nyx is darkness as well as she is a character.
Yeah.
That's the thing. She's literally the night, but she's also sometimes we'll see like, oh, Nyx went and she ate a pomegranate.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a little hard to talk about. The thing is, Nyx specifically does get personified a lot in Greek legends, which we don't see with some of the other primordial entities.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what they do with the room they have with the personified Nyx here is really fun and great. Now, there is mention of her actually being a good mother within legend. There are a couple of myths where Zeus is put to sleep by Hypnos, like somebody... I think once it was Hera, got Hypnos to go and force Zeus to fall asleep so she could do something behind his back. And this leads to Zeus, like, chasing Hypnos to the ends of the earth to try and just beat on him. And that story ends with Nyx actually, like, interfering and being like, get the fuck away from my son. And, like, Nyx is a primordial entity. She's stronger than Zeus in a way. And so she actually has Zeus sit down and apologize to Hypnos for chasing him around.
Which for Zeus is, like, a very rare occurrence,
Yeah,
I imagine.
exactly.
That man does not apologize about much.
So yeah, there's actually some precedent for Nyx being a present mother for her children, and not just that, but like motherly in general, so much so that she's kind of like a surrogate for Zagreus and Megara too. Nyx actually does reside within like Tartarus in mythology, so she absolutely should be in the House of Hades. And that's all to say that Nyx gets a 10 out of 10.
Hell yeah. MILF Monday.
Yeah, MILF Monday.
We respect and praise the MILFs in this
People
chat.
should know this was recorded on a Monday, a MILF Monday specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're gonna get into one of her kids, Charon. Charon? Charon. We're gonna say Charon.
Charon.
Charon. I can't do a British accent. Charon is another figure where we don't have much to go off of. He is very simple. He's the guy who ferries souls across the river Styx. He accepts some form of payment. Yeah, he's the boat dude. He's a skeleton in a boat. He takes you across the river. You put the coins on the dead's eyes as fare. So in Hades, his counterpart embodies all of this, and making him a shopkeeper actually does make a lot of sense since he's specifically a figure that you pay. At the same time, you can steal money from him, and it makes sense that he would have money because what he does is cart around souls all day, and they pay him for it. And in this, he's a cool, spooky skeleton. So, like, there's not much to go off of here and not much to hit, and considering they do hit all the marks and don't stray too much from that. Charon also gets 10 out of 10. A less resounding 10 out of 10 than Nyx, but a 10 out of 10 nonetheless.
Yeah, it's nice to have a few simple figures in mythology that you can just kind of like very easily nail, so long as you do not go too far from the simplicity that they embody.
Yeah, part of it is that he just sort of like moans and groans, so like he can't say anything damning. Going to another one of these primordial entities, we have Chaos. This one is tougher than Nyx because, like, in Greek mythology, Chaos is rarely, if ever, a person. A personified Chaos is really, really rare, so it's hard to have anything to go off there. It's hard to make a character from that and have it adhere to the original mythology at all. I do really like that Chaos has this very strange amalgam form to them. I think the oddball design works, since Chaos is less a person, you know? Well, less a human as we understand it. I also enjoy that Chaos uses they, them, because Chaos absolutely should not be gendered.
Yeah, they are not one distinct entity or gender, they are all things, so it kind of makes sense that they are, like, all-encompassing in that, and they don't really stick to a binary.
I think the trade-off for taking a debuff for an eventual boon is a cool mechanic. But the thing is that, like, Chaos is more just, like, empty space and empty dark matter. It's not inherently a bad thing in mythology. So I can't say that that comes from anywhere. That's kind of straying from the myths. Another thing, rather, that Chaos has going for them is that Nyx is a child of Chaos, so that lines up. We get some lip service to that. Though, the weird, like, half tsundere thing Chaos has of, like, pretending not to care, but definitely caring somewhat, is another odd choice, if you ask me. So, unfortunately, I do have to give Chaos a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just because, you know, there's not much to go off there in the first place. But, once again, I can't stop saying this. I think what they do in Hades is so cool, and I think all these characters are so cool, and it pains me to rate them so low. But this is about being pedantic. Alright, next we're going to talk about the three Furies. They're kind of getting groups together because there are some general things that I want to put down about them. So, in Greek mythology, the Furies never really get the limelight. They're never focused on that much. There are some hell monsters that torment the wicked, they punish the damned in the underworlds, and sometimes they will chase you down in the mortal world if you're a bad enough dude. They're also described as terrifying monsters with snakes for hair, bloody eyes, and bat wings in mythology. So, like, these are full-on monsters. These are not, like, Olympian gods where they're cool people.
Yeah, they are just sort of, like, monstrous entities as opposed to very sexy-looking individuals.
Yeah, unfortunately, we'll get to that. We'll get to docking the Furies points for being so sexy. Okay, Megara is first. So, one thing I should point out here is that Megara and Megara are two different characters in mythology. Megara the Fury is different than Megara, Hercules' wife.
Yes, that is a distinction that I was confused about when I started the game as well.
Yeah, so this Megara and Meg from Disney's Hercules are different characters. We gotta start off bad. I love Megara, but we gotta start off bad here. Each of the Furies has, like, a defining characteristic in their name, and Megara is supposed to be the embodiment of jealousy. Meg in Hades isn't jealous at all. Like, I love this, but we gotta dock her points for the fact that she has no trouble with you romancing Thanatos and Zeus at the same time as her.
Yes.
First of all, polyamory rocks if that's what you're into, but once again, this is about, like, if she's in original mythology, she's an embodiment of jealousy, so that doesn't match up. So we're pushing up our very smart boy glasses and saying that she's losing points for that.
Yeah, completely fair.
Other than that, she does a pretty good job of expressing the idea of a fury in design. That's true of all the sisters that we'll get into. I do have to dock them all some points for not having snakes for hair and bleeding eyes, though. They do have their bat wings.
Yes, they absolutely do have their wings, or their wing, actually. All of them have, I think, at least one wing.
Yeah, I think they have one wing.
Yeah.
They're Sephiroths.
Yes, absolutely.
So, because Megara of mythology has one defining trait, and Megara of Hades doesn't hit that, she's only getting a 5 out of 10, which is unfortunate. I'm so sorry, Megara. Alright, on to her sister, Alecto. There's not much both in mythology in the game, which actually gives her points, same with Karen here. They can't damn themselves if there's not much to go off of.
Absolutely.
And Alecto is the embodiment of, like, rage and anger.
Yes, and I will actually mention that within her fight, she has this, like, rage meter that will go up as you do damage to her.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's why she gets a 9 out of 10. The only point she is losing is just that same Fury design point. And that they're like standardly attractive women. Maybe not quite standard, but they're attractive women in this, not like actual monsters.
Yeah.
It's like if you made Cerberus into a furry.
Different game, different experience, petting Cerberus
very
every time
experience.
you get to the bottom, yeah.
But yeah. She's also said to be the one that like enjoys torture and violence the most, which yeah, that lines up with being the embodiment of rage.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, she does great. Tisiphone is the embodiment of murder.
Yes, and...
Who would have guessed?
Given her whole shtick.
Yeah, she's in there. She is also the most, like, monstrous, like, the most actually grotesque of the Furies in Hades.
Yeah.
Which grants her this weird spot where she gets a 9.5 out of 10 and she's the only decimal in this list.
Interesting.
Just because, like, they all have to get docked a few points for their lack of snake hair and bloody eyes.
Yeah.
But Tisiphone's design is a little better there, so I have to give, like, half a point back. Okay. Ooh, I like who we get to talk about next. Let's talk about Thanatos.
Hell yeah.
So, if you're a person who watches, read, partakes in, plays pop culture, video games, whatever, you know, media in general, Thanatos, like, that name, that idea, is really often used as this, edgy death incarnate, dark entity so twisted and cool, mysterious type of thing. There's this really pervasive edginess associated with Thanatos in a lot of pop culture and media. But the thing is that Thanatos is specifically the god of peaceful death, and a lot of people miss that. So, the fact that Thanatos in Hades is kind of a softer character, kind of a more soft-spoken, reserved, not violent or edgy, really. I mean, he has a darker design, but he's actually a very nice boy. He's a chill dude and a nice boy who cares about you and likes to come and help you out in Hades.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this again a little later, probably, but in the myth of Sisyphus, Thanatos gets tricked. There are times when people have gone down to Tartarus and fought him to get people back, like their loved ones back.
Yeah.
And generally when this happens, If Thanatos loses fair and square, he'll just be like, you know, good talk, you did it.
Yeah.
You won fair and square, go on.
Not a sore
so Thanatos
loser.
is actually, yeah, he's a cool dude. He is not actually edgy in mythology, and he's even portrayed in mythology as like a fleshy humanoid rather than a classic Grim Reaper like Charon. So Thanatos Hades actually gets a 10 out of 10.
Oh, good for him.
He's boyfriend material. Yeah, he's a very good portrayal of Thanatos, I think.
He's earned it.
Okay, another one of my favorite boys. The other son of Nyx featured in this game, Hypnos. Hypnos is another character within mythology that we don't have much to go off of. He's a child of Nyx, he's a brother to Thanatos. That matches from the game. And yeah, he's kind of, I guess you could call him the god of sleep. He's also a bit of a personification of sleep. So it actually does make sense that he's got sleepy bitch disease.
Yes.
Now, the interesting, or I guess sad thing about Hades' Hypnos is that he is significantly nerfed. Hypnos in mythology has a lot more cool powers. He has powers of making people forgetful, not just like making people sleepy. He can grant both prophetic dreams and misleading dreams through entering people's minds while they sleep.
Okay.
He can jump into your fucking psyche, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of sad that Hypnos in Hades doesn't get to really do anything except be like squirrely by the gate for you.
Yeah, he just sort of keeps track of the list of the deceased as they pass through, and I guess he just has sleepy bitch disease, so he's just lazy.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know he had like a whole slew of abilities he could use.
Yeah, we also don't really see in mythology this idea of him keeping lists of the dead. I'm not sure where that comes from. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen and I couldn't find anything on that.
Yeah.
So, despite how much I love Hypnos in this game, I think he's adorable, but he only gets a 3 out of 10, because he strays pretty far from his counterpart.
Yeah.
Alright, we're gonna get into the main pantheon of gods now. This gaggle of gods is much more fleshed out, just in our general conceptions of them. You probably know something about Athena, or Ares, or something like that.
Or Zeus.
Or Zeus, yeah, you've probably heard of Zeus.
Yeah.
Expect higher scores across the board, is what I'm saying, just because it's a little easier to adhere to these ideas. Zeus in Hades is a pretty standard depiction of him, you know? I mean, the gods are pretty fleshed out when they're the Olympian gods. They match their counterparts pretty well. What can I say about Zeus? He's prideful, he's mighty, he's the big guy, Mr. Lightning Bolt.
Yep.
You know how it is. If anything, he's, like, less troublesome in Hades than in a lot of actual mythology.
Yes, he is a fuckboy proper in actual myth.
Fuckboy is a nice term for it. But, yeah, so this is a nice shining depiction of Zeus. It's a very pretty depiction of Zeus, so it gets an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Because it does gloss over Zeus's worst features. On to Poseidon. Kyle, Poseidon's beard really threw me off. I saw the picture of Poseidon for the first time and I was disgusted.
Because it was just, like, all up in there?
I just don't like his beard. It really freaks me out. It intimidates me.
Mind you, you don't like beards in general, though.
I don't like facial hair in general, but something about his beard is so evil.
Okay, interesting.
Unfortunately, I won't be docking him points for that.
Oh, okay. Truly tragic.
Yeah, I actually think that the beard gives him points because it kind of alludes to this more chaotic personality.
That's fair.
Mythological Poseidon, this is maybe me doing him dirty, but he's kind of like Zeus, but more destructive and wild.
Okay.
As a embodiment of the sea, you know, he can be calm 1 minute and raging the next.
Yeah.
I think Hades captures that pretty well, but he's slightly off. I would like to see him more temperamental in this game.
Yeah.
So he gets 9 out of 10.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, so Athena. Athena was actually, like, a really important and beloved god back in the day. She was the patron of Athens.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The big one.
The big one. But yeah, the Greeks loved Athena. She was great. And in Hades, we see, much like her counterpart, she's measured, she's dignified, she's strong. A very respectable person, you know? She just sort of, like, you look at her and you're like, yes, ma'am. I respect you. Trying so hard not to make a respecting women joke. That's not what I was going for.
I respect you, woman.
I respect you, woman. So Athena is a god of war like Ares, but specifically defensive warfare and strategy.
That's the shield.
Yes. So that's why the shield is one of her signature things, a symbol of her. Now, the fact that she was the defensive and strategic part of war is kind of why they loved Athena so much more than Ares, and we'll get into that more later. We can see that there's a bit of tension between her and Ares in Hades too, which is nice. There should be, considering they're the two opposite sides of war.
Yes.
And once again, we'll get a little more into that later. She's also a goddess of crafts and artisans. She taught people how to weave, things like that. So in her design, we see a lot of these aspects reflected. We see her shield. We even see her little owl, which is a classic symbol of Athena. All the gods had their own, like, patron birds and stuff like that. But yeah, she is a really good representation of Athena. She gets 10 out of 10.
Hell yeah, good for her. She's got some of the best boons in the game, so I highly respect that.
Yeah, it's fitting. All right, Kyle, we're on to one of your faves.
Is it who I think it is?
It's Aphrodite, baby.
Yeah, Aphrodite time.
Okay, I have feelings about Aphrodite, the mythological figure, because Aphrodite is often super misrepresented and people don't actually understand what her deal is. So often in modern day, you will see Aphrodite portrayed as ooh-woo, soft, lovey-dovey goddess.
Yeah.
That's not who Aphrodite is. When we talk about Aphrodite, the goddess of love, we're talking about sexual lust. Aphrodite was a feared and revered goddess because people understood the worst that lust can bring out in people. They understood the feeling of craziness when you're super into somebody. That is what Aphrodite is the goddess of. That feeling of just mania and not being able to keep your head on straight.
Yeah.
Aphrodite is a god that will rock your shit in the good and bad ways, and she will absolutely use her powers just to get whatever she wants. She also stands apart from the rest of the gods. Well, not all of them, but most of them, in that she's not one of Olympian's siblings. Most of the gods are siblings. Shocking, I know. She was actually born from the castration of Uranus. So, like, Uranus is the heavens, kind of another one of these primordial entities.
One of the Titans, I believe, right?
No, Uranus gave birth to, well, Uranus and Gaia gave birth to the Titans, so they're even bigger guys than the Titans. Uranus was castrated. From the blood of his wangle, we got the Furies, and the wangle itself dissolved in the ocean, became sea foam, and Aphrodite was born from that. So she's kind of this just, like, entity in her own right. And there have been so many mythological powerhouses that have come and gone in Greek mythology, but she gets to be with the Olympian gods because she is powerful, and everybody knows not to mess with Aphrodite. I mean, we're talking about the person who more or less started the Trojan War.
Yeah, exactly. She did not mess around.
I really enjoy that Hades does not take, like, the soft, lovey, ooh angle. The closest we get to that is she has pink hair, but that's certainly not a detriment here.
Yeah.
But no, you really get the sense from Aphrodite in Hades that she's slightly mischievous, she's totally driven by her own desires, but also aware of it and embraces it, and she's not discouraged ever by anything people say that criticizes her. She's just aware that she can probably get away with anything, and she could ruin your day if you tried to stop her.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so Aphrodite does as she pleases, and that is the most important thing here. Hades actually really does her justice as this goddess of, like, beauty and love, quote-unquote, sexual love, but also as a goddess who knows that she can ruin your life, and will ruin your life, for very, very minor inconveniences done to her. So yeah, Aphrodite in Hades gets a 10 out of 10. I really respect what they did here.
Fuck yeah, that's good to hear. I'm glad. She's earned it.
She's absolutely earned it. Okay, Artemis time. Artemis is my favorite god of the Olympians. So Artemis in mythology, she's the goddess of the hunt and the moon. She's pretty no-nonsense, you know, she decided, I'm gonna be a virgin goddess, I'm gonna live on the mountains and hunt things, y'all are gonna leave me alone and not get me caught up in your drama. And then she proceeded to do all of those things. She will not think twice about sending an arrow straight through your skull. She's not cruel, but she really has no patience and does not allow the insult or wicked intentions of men in any degree. There are a lot of stories. There's one where a man looked at her bathing, and, like, there is the implication that that man was going to do some more, but a man saw her bathing and she turned him into a deer to get killed by his own hunting dogs.
Fuck yeah, go off.
Artemis is metal, and you need to understand this. You leave Artemis alone on her mountain, you make your sacrifices to her, and you leave her alone, and you respect her.
Yep.
She's reclusive, she is somewhat bad to the bone, but she's also a protector of children, you know? She's a midwife figure, so she does have this softness to her. However, I think they take that a little far in the Hades game. She's just slightly too soft, that she kind of loses some of the edge that the original Artemis has. And I really think that's part of the appeal of Artemis, that she's just really this no-nonsense will mess up your day woman.
Yeah, rough around the edges.
Yeah. And, I mean, in her design, we do see some of this ferocity and wildness to her. She has the furs, she has her arrow, she actually has quite a few of her symbols, like the antlers and the crescent moon.
Yeah.
And so it's a little mixed, is what I'm saying. I give her a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, that's fair, I'd say.
Yeah, I do think just, she's chiller than she should be, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Ares, God of War. God of War. I don't know what the title for that video game franchise is, but I imagine they say it like God of War or something like that. We talked about Ares a little bit, or we alluded to him in our Athena bit, and here's the thing. The Greeks really didn't like Ares that much. Ares, we're saying Ares.
They say Ares in the game, but
Yeah.
again, you can pronounce it whatever way you want.
Whatever. Ares, we're going Ares. The thing about Ares is the Greeks did not like him. He represented the brutality, the horror, and the bloodshed of war. He was the just mindless carnage. And so the Greeks, seeing themselves as these, like, sophisticated and above it, like, great scholars and very cultured people. Cultured is a weird word for it. But
Yeah.
the Greeks thought highly of themselves. They wanted to be more sophisticated. This was the part of war that they hated. And so Ares gets bullied in mythology all the time because the people writing it did not like him.
Uh-huh.
This leads to a boneheaded aspect of Ares. He's representing here, like, the stupidity of turning to violence and the cowardice that loss and pain can bring out in posturing men.
Mm-hmm.
Ares is often quick to run away crying to mommy. He's just as quick to do that as he is to start a fight, is the thing.
Yeah.
So he gets caught up in murder and bloodshed, and then he'll also, like, run away defeated. He's very much like the negative aspects of war. The Greeks didn't like him. He's also, he gets caught up in blood rages. He can be tricked pretty easily. So Ares and Hades captures the first part, the bloodshed, the war, the, like, willingness to get into conflict and use violence and savor violence.
Mm-hmm.
But they also portray him as just a little bit sly and undeterred in his conquest, which isn't quite true. They don't bully him enough is what I'm saying. They need to be meaner to Ares in their depiction of him. He's too cool.
Okay.
So he gets a 5 out of 10.
This one's for you, Ares.
This one's for you, Ares. Sorry I kept, like, flip-flopping on your name pronunciation.
It's fine. We're bullying him.
We're bullying him. Yeah, this was all intentional. Alright, Kyle.
Yeah?
Welcome to the cult of Dionysus.
Ooh, I love this guy.
Yeah. Okay, Dionysus is a more important figure than a lot of people give him credit for, because, like, yeah, he's the god of wine and of parties and stuff, but he's also the god of theater, which a lot of people don't remember, and the theater
Really?
became super important to the Greeks.
Okay.
So, Dionysus was, like Demeter, he's a god of the earth, so he's a little different than the rest of the pantheon in a sense. In Hades, we see him as a reveler, he's a chill party boy who wants to have a drink with you and vibe. That's very Dionysus, he's a cool dude. You can have a drink with him. He makes your enemies drunk, stuff like that. That's very Dionysus. But Dionysus is also wine itself, so there are two sides to that. Yes, there is the courage and the freedom and the merriment of being drunk, but there's also destruction and cruelty and absent-mindedness in drunkenness. And so Dionysus is all of those things too.
Mm-hmm.
And very often, Hades notwithstanding, that gets forgotten.
Yeah.
Dionysus can be cruel just as often as he can be relaxed. I know on one occasion in a myth, he influenced someone's mother into a drunken rage and had her tear him apart with her own hands.
Jesus.
Yeah, not like a
Dionysus.
child's son.
But still, like...
Yeah, like an
oof,
adult son.
okay.
But no, yeah, Dionysus will also all the gods will fuck you up.
Yeah, they're all a little bit vengeful and brutal in their methods.
Yeah, Dionysus is, like, really complex, as we're getting into here. He's also, being a god of the earth, he's a suffering god, as in, he dies in the winter and is reborn in the spring. Specifically, Dionysus, his death it's more torturous because of the act of pruning the grapevines, since those are so highly associated with Dionysus himself. But yeah, I really want to like... It's not that I want to like Dionysus and Hades. I do like Hades Dionysus. It just fails to live up to the complexity of the mythological Dionysus very, very much so. So he gets a 4 out of 10.
Bit too one note to be that great a depiction.
Yep. Alright. Hermes. So, Hermes is a god of so many things. He's a trickster god, he's a god of travel, he's so much, man. He's got so many, like, random domains. He's a god of, like, medicine, I think. He's also a psychopomp, as in he ferries souls to the underworld.
Okay, yeah.
In Hades, we see that he's a fast talker, he's a bit hipper than the other gods, he's personable and light. He's an athletic twink, which actually tracks with how he's, displayed in Greek art.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also mentioned as being like a messenger of the gods, which, yep, that's from Mythology too. That gains him some points.
Yep.
But like I said, the mythological Hermes has just so many domains. So this is kind of a Dionysus situation, but less so, in that they kind of lose some complexity here. He's, like, they don't really get into the fact that he is this sly trickster god. You know, he's super intelligent. He's very good at playing people and reading people and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's missing the hijinks, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's a bit too straight-laced. I mean, he's definitely light and fun, but not very, like, mischievous.
Yeah. Exactly. So he gets a 6 out of 10 just because, you know, it's Hermes. He could be more fun.
Yeah.
Alright, Demeter. This is gonna be a weird one, I'm telling you right off the bat, because the Demeter that we see in Hades, I'm pretty sure is specifically the Demeter within the original story of Hades and Persephone. The Demeter we see here is not just like a standard all-time Demeter, it's a very specific Demeter from a very specific part of a very specific story.
Yeah, tournament arc Demeter.
Yes. This is Demeter after Sasuke left and joined Orochimaru.
Oh god, during the Persephone retrieval arc?
Yes, the Persephone retrieval arc! That makes it really hard to, like, figure out how I should rate Demeter here. Demeter is said to be, like, a goddess of the seasons in this, which she is, but she's most prominently a goddess of the harvest. So that's kind of how you can tell that she's supposed to be the specific Demeter from after Persephone is kidnapped, because she is frozen over, which, as you would know if you played Hades, I'm pretty sure there's some lip service to it. When Persephone left, when Persephone was gone, Demeter froze over and refused to let plants grow. She pretty much turned the world into perpetual winter. And so, yeah, we absolutely see that Demeter here. She absolutely hits those notes. She's dignified, she's stern, and she's somewhat stubborn in how she's acting out her grief.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could see more grief from her, but at the same time, Persephone has been gone for quite some time, so she's probably somewhat adjusted at this point, even though she's not willing to give up the way she's acting out her grief.
Yeah.
This is a really hard one. This is a really hard one to give a rating for, so I'm giving her a 7 out of 10.
That's fair, I'd say.
Just because they're doing very well for Demeter in this specific moment, but Demeter as a whole doesn't really get portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
So after Demeter, we have the last of our not quite Olympian, but overworld gods in Persephone.
Mm-hmm.
So Persephone in mythology, she is the goddess of springtime and youth. She's, in mythology, sort of this innocent, perhaps a little naive figure. She's associated with flowers and just the freshness of spring. That very light green of grass just poking up out of the frozen over soil.
Yeah.
And something that sucks is, in mythology, more than anything else, she's a damsel in distress. She doesn't have much going for her, but luckily she gets super fleshed out in Hades, and I think it's really cool. I love how Persephone is an actual character and actually has a personality, and a good one at that, in Hades.
Yeah.
And boy, do I wish I were rating her on how much I liked her in this game. I have to do some psychological damage to myself here and say that if we're being pedantic and nitpicky about portrayal in accordance to legends, Persephone's design is not great in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
In that aspect. On its own, I love it. But she very, very little of her really resembles the Persephone from Legends. I think the most Persephone thing about her is, I guess, her part in this story as Persephone, and also the fact that she keeps a garden.
Yes.
Here's the hardest thing for me to physically utter, is that she maybe shouldn't look as milfy as she does, because she's a goddess of youth and maidenhood. And so personally, I love it. But I have to dock her a ton of points all over the place and give her a 3 out of 10.
Oh no.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I do not blame you.
Alright.
This is what we signed up for.
Now we're getting into some of the miscellaneous mythological figures. We're going to start with Achilles and Patroclus. They are a package deal here just because there's less to say about them individually, especially when compared to their Hades counterparts. Yeah, these bitches gay. In mythology, too, these bitches gay. Really, like, don't get funny with any of the modern bias. Ancient Greece was extremely gay, especially in the army. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Achilles died because he went into a blood rage to avenge Patroclus' death, you know? So, yeah, they get a ton of points for being canonically gay couple.
Yeah.
Am I playing favorites? No, I love all the Hades characters equally. Now I do have to get nitpicky. There's not terribly much to say about Patroclus. There's more to say about Achilles, who was this, like, wonderful warrior, so it tracks that he's a person who was trusted to, like, train Zagreus, the son of Hades.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Achilles, he's a big guy, he's very strong. However, he is a Greek hero, and based on the life he lived, we are confirmed that he goes to Elysium after he dies, so he shouldn't be in the House of Hades in Tartarus. That makes no sense.
Oh, wait, I will actually correct you on
Oh?
that. That is something that they mention in the game. He should have gone to Elysium. They very distinctly mention that, but specifically because of Zagreus needing someone to train him in the art of combat, Hades specifically took Achilles out of Elysium and brought him down to the House of Hades. So
Okay.
he would have resided in Elysium had Hades not interfered.
All right, I'm bumping their score up to an 8 out of 10 then.
Hell yeah.
Very nice. All right, we have another duo next, Theseus and Asterius.
The Bull of Minos.
Bull of Minos, yes. So yeah, these two are super intertwined, not only in game, but also in legend. I mean, Theseus on his own was a mighty hero who really fits well in a Colosseum. That makes so much sense for him. He was jacked, he went on so many adventures, including the famous Minotaur Maze. But yeah, he's popular. I'm talking about in mythology. He's popular, but he is also very intelligent and a good strategist and stuff like that. So Theseus in game can kind of be a meathead. He can kind of be very arrogant and let that blind him and make him stupid, which isn't really in line with the normal Theseus that much.
Yeah.
That's gonna dock him some points. Asterius is great. I like what they did with him. However, the original Minotaur was a full-on rampaging beast that ate virgins.
Yes, so not the emotionally intelligent and generally intelligent Minotaur that he is now.
I mean, you can have some wiggle room of, I mean, years in the underworld has probably granted Asterius his intelligence, but it's a 6 out of 10.
Fair enough.
Alright, ooh, next is a very good boy. Talking about Cerberus.
Ooh, good boy.
It's hard to mess up Cerberus. It's really hard to. This is another character who's very established within pop culture and media. And I mean, he's a dog, he's a big boy, he's got 3 heads. That's pretty much all you need. He guards the gates of the underworld to prevent the escape of the deceased, which, that's what he does in mythology too. So, in Hades, he's pretty much the last trial before Hades himself. 10 out of 10, certified good boy. Hard to mess up.
Hell yeah, he's earned it.
He's earned it. Alright, we're getting down to the final stretch here. Medusa.
Better known as Medusa.
I've seen people say that it's a theory that she's Medusa, but her name is a pun on Maid Dusa.
Yeah, and she is literally like a floating Gorgon head, which if you know about Medusa and what happened to her...
I was actually gonna say, she gets points because Dusa is a floating head, because Medusa was beheaded by Perseus, and her head was then carried around as a weapon and eventually made its way to Athena's shield. So yeah, it's Medusa, and we're rating her in relation to the original Medusa. Okay. Oof. I gotta get into something here. And I'm so sorry everyone out there who loves Dusa, but they did kind of take a badass monster and or tragic figure and turn her into a cutesy-fied, anxious uwu maidwife.
Yeah, they gave her anxiety.
Look at what you did. You took a perfectly badass monster lady and you gave her anxiety. I unfortunately do have to dock her a lot of points because the Dusa that we see, while being adorable and very fun, is very, very departed from Medusa of legend. She only really resembles her in her sprite, and that's not good. Personality is not, it doesn't fit. Also, some legends say that Medusa remained a priestess to Athena after death. Some others say that she even rose again to fulfill that duty. So it's kind of weird that she works for Hades. That's a completely different god. She was originally a priestess of Athena.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have to give Dusa a 2 out of 10.
Aw, shameful stuff, but that's the way it goes.
Unfortunately, she was almost a 1 out of 10, but I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Aw, fair enough, yeah.
Alright, you know who we're talking about next? Skelly.
Skelly! Oh my god, Skelly?
Skelly.
Interesting, go on.
I was going to exclude Skelly, but then I realized something. I just thought it would be really funny to give him a 0 out of 10, because he's not a mythological figure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, as far as I am aware, he is not based on any proper character or being from mythology. He is just a skeleton that acts as your training dummy when you are in the fucking training room.
He's just a skeleton. I just thought it would be funny. Alright.
Fair enough.
Alright, final 3. Eurydice. So, at first I thought her title of Carefree Muse was saying that she was one of the muses, the god-adjacent muses.
Yeah.
But upon closer inspection, she's actually a wood nymph, and the muse is just the normal type of inspiration muse. And, little known fact, Eurydice was a nymph. I don't know if it was ever specified that she was a wood nymph, but she very well could have been. And so I think that not only their portrayal of what a wood nymph would be, but also Eurydice here, because they got that little known fact, is very, very good. The lore in the game sticks pretty darn well to the original original myth while also adding in little bits here and there about Orpheus and Eurydice's posthumous relationship. Granted, and this is the one place where I kind of have to take off points, Eurydice was not a musician in the original myth, which sucks. I really like what they did with her, but I do have to take off points for that. So she gets a 9 out of 10. Overall, she's really good.
Thank God. Yeah, she's a wonderful character. I'm glad to see that she ranked well.
I really love the design of, like, her being a wood nymph, and that's why she's a tree person.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's very well done.
All right, Orpheus.
Orpheus, Morpheus, Dorpheus.
Go into your orifices. Worcestershire sauce, red pill, blue pill, walruses.
Morpheus drinking a 40 in a death basket.
Oh god, okay. Oh my god, I actually have to get in this now. What is wrong with him? Why does he look like that? He's just emo fucker.
He's still emo fuck.
His design is really weird to me, but he does have his famous liar, so his design gets him points.
Yep.
And the fact that he looks like this emo mess is actually very fitting. And in the game, he is very resigned and sad. And that's good, because after Orpheus failed to retrieve Eurydice, there are two accounts of what happened. Either he killed himself, or he was torn apart by the Dianids, which, for those who don't know, Dionysus had this cult of followers that were naked women who lived in the woods who were constantly drunk, and they had pinecone wands, and they would just brutalize anyone they came across. They would just, like, murder people. Again, Dionysus was an interesting god. His melancholy actually works very well. Orpheus, despite how weird he looks, again, they stick to his original legend, and it makes a lot of sense that he would end up being a musician for Hades because, I mean, he played so well that he made all the gods weep and they were physically in pain, Hades included. So yeah, that's some powerful music. He would absolutely end up being a personal court jester.
Yeah.
Though, we do have to dock him a point because, you know, same deal as Eurydice. He states that Eurydice was the actual brains of the operation for them, and she's the singer in their little duo. She just went uncredited, which in-game sucks, but as a development there, as a creative liberty, it really rocks. However, that does mean 9 out of 10. Alright, Sisyphus, I forgot to take notes for, so I'm just freestyling this one. Which, to be fair, I've been freestyling most of these, but I had notes. So, Sisyphus, basically his whole thing, a little background, he was a king who tried to escape death by he tricked Thanatos into climbing into a box of shackles. And then he locked Thanatos in a box and nobody died for like a week before, I think, Ares came and collected him. And so that's why Sisyphus has to roll the rock up the hill over and over again. It's just a really, like, fuck you punishment. He was very prideful, is what you can get from this story. So, Sisyphus being this pretty even-tempered, go-with-the-flow guy, I can't make heads or tails of it just because it doesn't really match up with the myth, but it's another one of those things where, I guess it would make sense that he'd get there eventually if he's in hell forever.
Yeah, rolling that boulder up the hill, like, constantly would kind of mellow you out eventually.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna say 5 out of 10 for Sisyphus just because I can't really say either way. It could make sense, it could not, it's definitely different.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one little, I don't even know if it's worth mentioning, but obviously every character in the game, if you give them nectar, you get a little trinket from them. Sisyphus's was a broken shackle. I don't know if that is worth adding into the equation, if that raises
I'll give him a
his
6
score.
out of 10 for that, since that's a reference to the myth. Alright, that is all our characters in Hades. So, I've done a crime here by rating people so low, but again, it's about the original myths. I love them all so much. I'm gonna total up the score and see what the average was for adherence to the myths. I will not include Skelly's 0 out of 10, don't worry. The overall adherence score for Hades to classical Greek mythology is a 7.2 out of 10. So overall, this game pays just a ton of homage to the originals, and the fact that it doesn't have a perfect score is actually really good because the really beautiful thing about mythology and legends and stuff like that is that you can adapt them and change them and put them into all these new and cool forms, and Hades is exactly that. It's a new take on classic legends and classic characters, and by gosh, we all love it.
It's a good game with a lot of good attention to detail, but it does do some wonderful new changes that are appreciated.
And I like most of them.
Yeah, I like this game.
Yeah,
I like
once
all
again,
of
I
its
can't say how
characters.
much I just like
enjoy
enjoy the
it.
designs and the characterizations and everything like that.
Yeah, if this was purely based on personality, like Sam said at the very beginning of this video, 10 out of 10
yeah.
all across the board. It is a joy to hear from these characters, and it means a lot that they're, Supermassive took a lot of time to actually, design and write these characters in a way that does actually pay significant homage to all of the myths that originally built them up. So it's
real
good. It's a good game. It's a good
Play it. Vote for
good
it on the
all
Game
around.
Awards.
Yeah, exactly. This is Game of the Year material for an indie game. I think that's pretty impressive. So thank you guys for watching this video. We really appreciate it. And from both of us, we hope you have a wonderful day.
All right, stay safe out there. We love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Goodbye. Wait, are you about to get the sex scene?
I think so.
Do you want me to leave you and Meg alone?
What is going on here? I didn't know this was a thing.
Wait, you don't know the sex ASMR was real?
I don't, what? I thought it was just like a scene that you had. What the fuck? I had no idea that was a thing in the game. What? Okay, that's interesting. I apologize for that happening during the recording. I was kind of trying to avoid the reading and stuff so I wouldn't have to like...
You just enjoy this right now. Don't worry about me.
Sorry for yeah, I don't want to have this go on for very long.
No. Just, I'm fine. You enjoy it.
Okay, that's over. That was
so
very
sorry.
shocking. Okay, sorry. We were on, we just did Poseidon, so now it is...